Hello and welcome back to VGC for our review roundtable of Capcom's Pragmata. I'm Jordan Midler along with Dave Breens of VGC and Aaron Bayne of Push Square. Today we're going to be talking about Capcom's latest, not boomer shooter, I'm saying millennial shooter. We have to come up with a better term for shooters that remind me of the 2008 financial crash. But we'll be going through the whole game. No spoilers, obviously. We'll be talking about what we liked, what we disliked, and any other points. Off the bat, Aaron Bayne, give me your elevator thoughts, a little paragraph on what you think of Pragmata.
I've actually been kind of surprised by how much I liked it. Just obviously I record stuff for the channel to do our video reviews, and my intention was to only play what I needed to for the review. And then when I hit the end of that, I thought, you know, I'll actually just keep playing. It's quite fun. It's pretty easy going. You don't have to think too hard about it. Shooting's fun. Kind of linear enough that literally it's just like go this way, shoot robot, cool. Yeah, that's kind of where my head's at with it.
Just to be clear, Aaron did not write the written review on Push Square because that would have been very easy to clip out to just be like, oh, he only played like a tiny bit, then wrote the review.
No.
Breens, what are your thoughts so far on Pragmata?
This is like the exact game I want Capcom and other developers to make, but I don't want it to take this long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Capcom are holding up like the whole games industry at the minute, where it's like they've got like the prestige stuff with Resi, and then they've got this like, not a B game feels harsh, but it does feel like slightly on that kind of tier. I thought this game honestly was going to be pretty poor from the pre-release stuff and from the trailers. I was like, this doesn't feel like it's going to land. This feels like it's going to hit kind of weird. But I think Pragmata is great. I was really surprised by how much I enjoyed it. And I don't know if that's just a case of having really low expectations, but I think the central mechanic of like patting your head and rubbing your stomach, doing the shooting and the hacking at the same time is fun. I think that it is an absolute miracle that Diana isn't annoying. I think that the relationship between Hugh and Diana is perfectly charming. I think Hugh is, again, taking it back to this like Obama era shooter. I think Hugh is like the prototypical, you remember that meme of all the white guys with shaved heads protagonists? Like, he's exactly that. Not only that, he has a Nolan North / Troy Baker like voice. Like, I thought that was quite funny. But yeah, I like it. I like how kind of it doesn't overstay its welcome. Like, it's not a short game, but it's not a long game. It's in this nice little kind of this nice spot. So yeah, I thought it was pretty solid. I think we'll start with kind of that central mechanic, because for those who don't know, essentially it's a third-person shooter, but on the right-hand side of the screen, you're playing a version of Snake, essentially, where you're leading this little block through this maze, trying to make it go over certain parts of the maze, and then when you complete this hack, the enemy becomes easier to shoot. Aaron, how did you find that balance between shooting the enemies and doing the hacking? Because I thought it was pretty well pitched.
Yeah, I mean, to start off, I do think I was a little like, oh, I'm not sure how I'm feeling about this. Like, I found it kind of hard to shoot and then like hack. And there's like, you know, you get other weapons in the game. Some are the more like heavy hitting ones, and you have your default ones as well. And I didn't like so much to start that like everything else was limited supply. Like, once you've used it, you don't have it anymore. That I didn't like to start off. But then as the enemies started getting a bit tougher and the hacks started getting like more sort of convoluted, and you're having to work your way through things, and there's sort of mechanics within those, I was really getting on board with it. And I think it was a nice way to, because this is a very combat heavy game. Like, it's basic, there's very light puzzles, it's all just like robots and robots and robots, but they introduce quite a lot of different kinds of robots with quite a lot of different hacking challenges, and mixing those things together, I thought it kept me like interested. And every time there was some new variant or some new like boss stage, I was like, oh right, okay, like this is going to be fun. I'm looking forward to kind of digging into this. So I came to really enjoy it as the game progressed.
Yeah, I think that for me the only issue I had was on the grid when you unlock certain like hacking nodes, which essentially they're little power-ups, so it'll mean that the enemy stays open for longer, meaning it can take more damage, or the enemy's frozen in time. I was very bad at picking out which of those little icons was which. I just saw a yellow one and I was like, yeah, I'll go through that. I'll try and get through all of them before I hit it, which is pretty unnecessary and a good way to like lose all of your hacking nodes quick. Breens, how did you find it?
I'm really impressed by the fact that I only felt overwhelmed maybe twice in the game, and I was clearly missing something. And once I'd realized what I was missing, I was like, oh, okay, this is what I'm doing now. I'm pretty surprised that you said that you're doing the tapping your head and rubbing your belly, and yet I'm like, okay, I'm actually on top of it. It does sort of feel like I'm in puzzle mode, shooting mode, puzzle mode, shooting mode. I don't actually feel like I'm in both.
Yeah,
I'm swapping between two every like 5 seconds, but I'm surprised at how well it works. I'm surprised at how well it goes down. And there's actually like the hacking stuff does get more complicated over the course of the game. Like there are like variables to deal with, but more than anything, you decide how complicated you want it to be, because there are statuses like heat buildup, and you can use hacks that use heat buildup and weapons that use heat buildup. But of course, you don't want to spend those hacks on a weak enemy. You want to save it for the good one, because, like as you said, Jordan, you don't want to spend them all. Yeah. There are like builds and methods and strategies you can concoct, and that will make the puzzles tougher for you, but it's because you've decided that. I like it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the game's pretty good at dishing you out a lot of new ways to like play with the hacks, whether it be you can make Diana, who's the little girl, she's the one that's doing these hacks, so you can make her like really offensive, or you can make it all about like trapping enemies or connecting all the enemies together so that one hack attacks all of them. I thought it was pretty fun. I think that the enemies come towards you at like an almost Resident Evil pace to start with. They're like shambling towards you, and then as things get faster and enemies start doing like more area of effect damage, it's a hard thing to deal with. I also only got overwhelmed a couple of times. One of them was in the like fake New York section. One of the rooftops had like basically no cover, and everything was spawning at the same time, and there was a few of the drones that shoot the rockets at you, and I was like, that's one criticism I have. I think the game is sometimes pretty bad about locking on to who I want to hack. Like sometimes I'm trying to look at a rocket and it just like gets someone who's down here. I was like, that's kind of annoying. It seems like it works. The game's kind of at its best when it's like 3 or 4 enemies rather than like 10. I think the game's incredibly easy when it's one enemy. Like every boss I flew through, because you can basically stun lock the bosses if you have the correct combination of stuff. Yeah. But it was a decent little challenge. Aaron, was there any kind of was there any point where you felt like you were just kind of going through the motions? Because at some point I got the shotgun equivalent to a ridiculously high tier where I was just like tearing through enemies. Even the hardest enemies were like the creepy big like the baby with the massive head and the tiny arms and stuff like that. Like I was downing them before they could attack, shooting them in the back, and like repeating that over and over again.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely like a good power creep in this game as you go through the different weapons, and like upgrading as well. It just had that nice like sort of itch. It was scratching that itch where like every time you go back, you can actually kind of level up a kind of substantial amount. And I've done a lot of the training stuff as well, because it would give you the currency to then upgrade even further. So I enjoyed like how you were getting more powerful, but then kind of like I was saying, the way that the hacking and stuff progresses through the game, I really liked, like there was an enemy that would have like a shield that you would have to shoot as Hugh to then clear some of the hacking means. Yeah. I thought that was nice to like kind of blend the two different aspects of the combat. And so yeah, I mean, you definitely like, if it's like a basic enemy at that point, like it needs to be at the point I'm at the game, which I believe is like at least 80% through the game or something like that. If it's not like a big kind of boss room, it is easy. Like in that, I don't know. I think like the pacing of the combat as well, like the encounters that you have is frequent enough, but then also not like too frequent that like I'm getting bored with it whenever I am overpowered. And it's kind of lacing those in with a little easy one and then a hard one and then a slightly harder one than that. And I like how it kind of flows between all of those different forms of the combat.
Yeah. Breens, did you find yourself getting stuck in a loop, or were you experimenting with all the different guns? Decent variety of weapons, I thought.
Yeah, there is a decent variety of stuff. I feel like I definitely found my favorites pretty early on. There's a shotgun archetype. It deals with most enemies in like one shot, the weaker ones anyway, and maybe 2 shots if you get like a weak point on the bigger enemy. So big fan of that, and I did keep going back to it. But there's almost, because all the extra weapons you get have like limited ammo, and as soon as you like run out of ammo, you drop the weapon. It's not like you have it in your bag waiting to get ammo again. You have to reload it. You just drop it, and then you just like pick up whatever you can find to put in that slot. So it's actually kind of like a little bit of a Breath of the Wild element of like, here's some hacks. I don't have hacks equipped right now. I'll just take them.
Yeah.
Here's just a weapon. I'll just take it. So the game does force you to experiment. And of course, like, there are sections where it'll keep spawning homing missiles, for example, because it's like, yeah, these are the things you want to use against these enemies. It's hinting that at you. I'm forced to experiment, and I actually really, really appreciated that. It gave me an appreciation for all the tools when I probably would have ignored 80% of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I tend to agree with that, especially like so you have like your more offensive guns, and then you have the more kind of techie guns. They're like red and green. The tech guns are like, oh, there's sticky bombs, which makes the hack a lot shorter. There's like this stasis net that keeps things in place. I enjoyed messing around with that. I think that one of my main complaints about the game is there's very light Metroidvania elements to it. Like, there is an ability you get at some point that changes the environment, shall we say, without being too specific. And I thought, okay, this will be one of many of these abilities that means when you go back into previous areas, there will be things to open up. But it largely seems to be just things that either block off an upgrade material or a collectible or something like that. I felt like there was more, especially considering the game is framed in such a way where you're on this like tram track essentially around this lunar base. There could have been a lot of reason to go back and forth. I honestly thought that you would maybe go to area X number and then the next objective would be back in area 2, for example, but it is much more linear than that. I thought that the Breens, in terms of that kind of element, do you feel like there's much of a reason to stick around for people who aren't picking things up? Because I think that you could get through this game very quickly if you're not like looking around for stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And as Aaron mentioned, if you do the training missions, you can get quite a lot of like upgrade materials anyway. So you don't necessarily have to like go for 100%. I think there is a certain satisfaction in going for 100%, but like the thing, I feel like I need to jump into a new game and see if it carries over your ability to morph stuff early on, because that would change. Because I really do feel like this game wants you to play it more than once. I mean, as we've mentioned, it's not the longest game. And I feel like if you're carrying over abilities, upgrades between runs to like max out your character, then maybe it's better.
Yeah.
But if you do a single run and you're just like as you say, using your like terraforming ish abilities, it's like it's just all right. It's just all right. It is, as you say, just hiding an upgrade material of some sort, of which there's like 5 or 6.
Yeah, I never felt short of upgrade stuff. Like, I basically got Hugh to maximum like health on one run. Like, if you do enough of the training missions, you do enough of the like looking around, which is obviously good. Like, a lot of games have that problem, and this game has this problem slightly where you get everything and you're all souped up for essentially one fight, which is very, very easy. So like, I thought that the ability to play it again was probably something that they'd intended. Aaron, moving on to Hugh and Diana, we said it at the top. I really liked their relationship. I thought Diana was pretty funny. I think it's cute that in a few of the sections where she goes to hack something, she goes 1011000 and like speaks in binary. Like, I thought that was really funny. What did you think of the pair of them?
Yeah, actually, like you're saying, I actually did quite like the two characters. I don't think there was anything too deep to think about with it. It's not like you're getting some sort of like Joel and Ellie relationship here, in The Last of Us. It's pretty like, I almost felt like they didn't want you to really think about it too much, because it's like Hugh just seems like some kind of chill, nice guy, but like I never felt like I was really learning too much about him. He just seemed like pretty kind of nice authority. He was very kind of fatherly. I think that was obviously the kind of vibe they were going for. And like you said, Diana was actually quite like, some of the dialogue stuff you get into is quite cool, and she's like, I don't know, just quite like a nice character. And that was kind of the vibe. It's almost just like one of those like easygoing shows where you're like, oh, I like all these characters, and there's nothing too like, not that there's not dramatic stuff going on, but there wasn't any like real meat in the bones. I felt it was more just like, yeah, she's nice, he's nice. I enjoy seeing the two of them together, and that's kind of where, at least at the point I'm at in the game, I did hit a bit that I'm assuming is supposed to be kind of like an emotional aspect to it. I'm not really feeling it. Just because, it feels kind of surface level in that regard, but almost like all of the other aspects, like you're saying, like with the density of the levels and the exploration and stuff, I don't mind that. I like that it's a simple game. It's just like something, you know, I can come in, I see like a cool lunar base, the Earth's off in the distance, I get to shoot with cool weapons, I'm seeing some kind of nice dialogue stuff there, but I'm not having to really
it's like something from a different era. Like I think there is a problem where, because the only games that get made now are massive, super in-depth, like quadruple A, quote unquote games, like it's hard to kind of approach a game like this and just be like, games like this used to come out all the time, like where you just play through it has like a normal story and then you like decent gameplay and you're away. But I felt myself so on guard at the start of this game, being like, this Diana lassie is going to be like a tiny Tina, she's going to try and be funny, and it's like, no, it's very simple. It's like it's a young girl who's nice. You have an automatic like paternal instinct about it, and it's pretty solid. Breens, how did you feel about the relationship? Did you appreciate that when Diana gets upgraded, she hits a vape? I thought that was very, very funny.
Yeah, I did love it. She's got to take a quick rip.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, for me, Diana is actually like, I didn't expect to like her at all. In general, not a big fan of children.
Yeah,
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know what to say, but she's not annoying. Mm-hmm. And unlike many games that feature children, the face looks pretty much natural.
Yeah,
like I'm going to like throw back to stuff like Horizon, the Aloy flashback.
Yeah,
which version of the game you play of that? It just looks.
It looks like a grown woman who's been shrunk down.
Child.
Yeah. There's just something wrong with children in games a lot of the time. Diana looks natural, and I think they're... How do I put this? It feels like Capcom boiled everything down to just what they need. They were like, do we spend money on animating Hugh's face? No.
Yep.
Keep his visor up all the time. Put 300% of the budget into Diana. Is Diana going to be annoying? No, cut every bit of dialogue that's annoying. We've got to like laser... This is why it took so long. They're like... They made loads of stuff and they clearly cut until the constituent parts were just left. And what really, really impressed me is Diana's like a little 8-year-old girl, robot, but you know, whatever, 8-year-old girl. The way Hugh speaks to her and the way they talk is like, if I was talking to a robot and they asked me for something factual about planet Earth, I would respond in like a very scientific, plain language terms. The way Hugh explains planet Earth and human relationships and dynamics to Diana, it's always poetic and artistic. He's always like talking from the heart about how things make you feel, and Diana doesn't understand this, but it's like she doesn't understand it because she's a robot, but also because she's a little girl. It like blurs the lines there, and I was really consistently impressed by the fact that Hugh might be the most well-adjusted male protagonist in any video game ever. This man, you get to find out a lot about him, much about his background, and he's just the most optimistic, positive. Like he's indomitable, and he's such a good role model for Diana. And the relationship these two build over the course of the game is what really, really impressed me. And it came out in those small pieces of dialogue where Hugh was just waxing poetic about a beautiful sunset, or how a conversation with people heals the heart. And she doesn't understand that, but also she wants to. And I was like, actually, this kind of might be my highlight of the game, even though I hate children.
Yeah.
So
it's a really nice relationship, and the game does like, this isn't actually how it works, but it theoretically gets like an extra star for me based on that, because like the gameplay's fun and it's fine. The structure of the game totally bog standard, but if they two fell apart, like you could feel it becoming a pure slog. But anytime they were together, like I agree with Aaron, the kind of emotional punch, which we can't refer to in any specifics, didn't quite land for me, but I think the rest of the stuff really did. Breens, it's funny you mentioned that about the quality of Diana's model. There's a few other characters with hair who have significantly worse hair models than Diana. Diana's got like she's like the most high graphics model in the history of video games. Like that's the power of the PS5 Pro. Speaking of, were we all on PS5 Pro? I think
I was.
Breens? Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everyone on the PS5
it looks
professional.
amazing,
really, really nice looking game. I believe that Andy is playing, or Chris, maybe one of them's playing the Nintendo Switch 2 version, so we'll have thoughts on that on the main pod. But I really like the way it looked. The two options, like a high frame rate and a standard, but I'm pretty sure the standard is like 60.
What's their options on the Pro? I must have missed that because I went looking for it and didn't find it. I just assumed it was one of those like blanket, like this is just a Pro mode.
I think it's a 120 mode that they offer.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, it looks and runs amazing. Like that, it was super smooth. I had no issues at any point. And speaking to the base model, Steven at Push Square, he's the guy that was reviewing it there. He played on base PS5, and he said that even on like the kind of quality mode, it still ran close to 60. It was really nice. And then like performance mode was even smoother. But he said like it's one of those quality modes where you don't actually mind. It's like the frame rate drop isn't bad enough. It's not like 30 all the time or anything. So it seems to be like a very, very polished game, which you would hope after so long, you know.
Yeah. The RE engine is really good. Like it does environments really nice. It does models really nice. Especially like in closed off. I think some of the more open areas, like the fake New York and a later zone that we can't talk about, look a little bit edgy because it's clearly like the RE engine's clearly made for like resi games where you're in like corridors, and that it does that stuff exceptionally. When it gets wider, it's a little bit jank. I love the Capcom style posters all over the fake Times Square. Like it's Capcom love doing that stuff. They have that stuff in all their games. But yeah, I thought it looked really nice. I thought the weapon effects were all pretty good as well.
I had the one thing that like I kept thinking for some reason through the whole game was like with the story and the setting, I thought this would make a really cool horror game. And like I kept like wanting that for some reason, where you're like, you know, they're on this abandoned station, well, you don't know where anyone is, and it's kind of creepy in that way. And I kept kind of hoping for that, but it does play everything kind of at face value, which again is like, it kind of stops it from being like this like 5 out of 5 game for me, but it also is part of why I like it, because it's just something, you know, it's not like when you get games coming out this year like Crimson Desert, which is like commit your entire life to me, do every single mechanic known to man and all this stuff, whereas like you have a game here that's just doing a few things but really, really well, and it's not really trying to be something that it isn't either. I kind of appreciate that. And like you're saying, it's harking back to those old kind of PS3 style games, which is nice to have today. It's just something that's there for fun and nothing, you know, it's not trying to be some kind of highfalutin artsy game or anything.
Yeah, none of this woke nonsense. I think that my kind of closing thoughts are, I think it's really solid. I think that there becomes an issue, obviously, in the realm of £70 games where it's like, can I say to someone, absolutely run out and play a game they're probably going to finish in like 2 or 3 nights? That's that'll depend on like your life and your situation. But I think for what they offer is very solid. Capcom continues this like ridiculous run of always being at least at like a 4 out of 5 level, unless I'm forgetting something really specific. But yeah, it's really solid. Hugh and Diana sell it for me, and the core mechanic, which could be super clumsy, works out very well. I think the first couple of times you use it, you will think, oh, I'm not sure about this, as I did. That's exactly how I felt the first couple of times. I was like, this feels clunky, where I'm like tapping and like trying to get around this thing and unfocusing my eyes to see both sides of the screen. But when you get into a flow, I think it's really enjoyable, and a rare move for me. Outside of one specific collectible, I'm pretty sure I'm going to platinum this thing, because I just enjoy moving about this world. Like I think it's very pleasant to move around. Breens, your final thoughts?
This is 4 out of 5 must play, essential. It reminds me a lot of Kunitsugami.
Oh yeah,
Capcom's from the game from the other year, the like action RTS, and that's because it is just like one idea that they went all in on, no fluff. I don't know how else to describe this, but this is like the game critic's game.
Yeah,
both because it's an approachable length. It's one solid idea. It's not a Crimson Desert. I did actually say to a friend of mine that I was like, "This is the anti-Crimson Desert. It's one idea done really well."
Yeah, I like that.
That's it. I feel like if you appreciate that sort of thing, this is a must play.
Aaron, any more thoughts before we close out?
Yeah, I do think for the price, like you're saying, kind of if price is becoming a factor for things, it is it's a lot of money for not a super long experience and not a game that I personally think is super replayable. Like we're kind of all alluding to here, most of us playing through this have done almost everything in the game. I've almost fully upgraded, and I'm not a particularly like go through every nook and cranny kind of player. So from that perspective, yeah, you maybe could have more enjoyment if it's a little bit cheaper. But in terms of the actual quality of the game, yeah, super, super simple, does everything that it goes for really, really well, and just a fun time, which is what you're looking for, really.
Excellent. Well, you can check out my review on VGC. You can check out Aaron's content over on Push Square. We'll have more thoughts on Pragmata on the main podcast. Thank you for listening to this review roundtable. If you'd like to support VGC, you can do so at patreon.com/videogameschronicle. Until next time, say goodbye, Aaron.
Goodbye.
Say goodbye, Breens.
Take it easy.
And we'll see you later. VGC is supported by Patreon. Check out patreon.com/videogameschronicle for more podcasts, ad-free browsing, and extra content. Thank you for your support.